Welcome to Coach Bennett's podcast, where every run has a purpose, where kindness is hardcore, where this is about running, and this is not about running, where every starting line is a finish line in disguise, where rambling still gets you where you need to be, where pineapple will never ruin your pizza, and the sodas, adult and not adult kind, are always cold, and where there is room on the starting line for everybody. I'm Coach Bennett. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Let's get started. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 89 of Coach Bennett's podcast, All the Small Things. I'm not going to do my na-nas just yet, but I will tell you this right off the bat. Blink-182, All the Small Things. The song, All the Small Things. The na-nas at the end, I mean, the Ramones would have been proud of that. It was just bliss hearing that. Na 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 na. Anyway, you're just getting a little taste. I don't know the whole deal with, royalties and licensing and all that stuff. And probably I'd be sued for butchering the song and ruining it in, the ears of the young and the old alike. So I'm going to leave it where it is. But I am going to just keep it on the music tip for just a little bit, because I was looking at the top albums of 1989, okay? And let me just tell you, what a year. What a year. Listen to this. This is all 1989. Bleach from Nirvana. Freedom, Neil Young. Pretty Hate Machine, 9 Inch Nails. Full Moon Fever, Tom Petty. Like a Prayer, Madonna. 3 Feet High and Rising, De La Soul. The End of the Innocents, Don Henley. Did I say Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys? Disintegration by The Cure. The Stone Roses, Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation. There are so many unbelievable, full-blown albums in 1989. All right? It's just wild. And I go through this every time I do, a new episode. I look at like what happened that year, or, major events that occurred during that calendar year, top songs, biggest movies, top albums. And I'll tell you what, like every year is pretty amazing, which is, I think a good reminder when you go through something like this to kind of check out just how amazing the things are that occur in each and every year. And I think sometimes we have to maybe remind ourselves that it's amazing in the moment. And yes, we can look back and say, wow, what a great year. Part of me wishes we spent more time just appreciating what's around us in the moment than looking back fondly about what we were doing in those moments, what we were listening to in those moments, who we were with during those moments. Like, just own the here, own the now. Okay, that's all I wanted to say to kick off episode 89. All right, All the Small Things. Now, this was originally going to be named The Little Things, but I kept singing, I think it's a Bush song. It's The Little Things That Kill. It just kept, that's not the name of it. I think it's Little Things is the name of the song, but that's the chorus. It kept going through my head, and I'm like, that's not the, premise of this episode at all. The little things are not what kill you, at least not the little things I'm talking about. So I was like, I gotta think of something different here. And then I thought, well, these little things, the small things, all the small things, there we go. Let's do that. It didn't have to be the name of a song. That's not, what I was going for. But when it started the little things and I equated it with a song, suddenly I wanted to keep the kind of song vibe or theme, really, more than anything else. So if you've never heard, which I would find it remarkable that you've never heard All the Small Things by Blink-182, I'll be sure to have a link to it in the show notes, so you check it out. It's also a pretty funny music video. It's a spoof, I believe, on NSYNC and some of their ads. So Blink-182 is just 3 guys. And anyway, the video they did is lampooning NSYNC. So if you're a big NSYNC fan, like, you're still going to enjoy the video because it's funny. But we're moving on, okay? We're moving on into the episode. And the episode is about all the small things that you do to make sure the big things happen, or all the small things you should do to make the big things easier to take on, easier to do. And I'll tell you what, in this weird kind of twist that occurs, at least for me and for many of the athletes that I speak to or work with or know, during the hardest parts of the year, or just during hard parts of the year, whether that has to do with weather or work or school or things occurring in your life, okay? The little things actually become super important. And in a weird way, they become the big things. Going for a run, let's just equate that as the big thing, right? Well, during the hardest parts of the year, during those hard stretches that you go through during a year, the big thing can seem really hard to do at times. You know, if you're dealing with a lot of stress in your life because of work, because of school, whatever, home life, going for a run can be almost a task that seems impossible to do. But if you do the little things that you should be doing, that you could be doing, that you know are going to make the run better or are going to make you a better runner, if you do those things, which they're little, doesn't mean they're easy, but they're little things, and we're going to get to how that's also a surprise for a lot of people, that the little things sometimes are the hardest things to do. But if you can do those little things, they suddenly make the big thing more achievable. I'm not going to say easier, but in some cases, yes, they're going to make the run easier. We're going to go through a whole list of small things, little things, tiny things, things that on the surface don't seem as monumental and as impossible a task to do as the big things, like the run, the speed run, the fartlek, the long run, the 60-minute run, the 45-minute run, the tempo run. You know, that can seem like it's just not going to happen. I've got too much going on. But what you find out is if you string together a bunch of these little things, next thing you know, the run's happening. All right, so I think this is important now because it's important always. And on top of that, listen, people are stressed. People are exhausted emotionally, mindfully. They're tired, and it's leading to them being physically tired. And as a result, people are starting to find it very difficult to get to a starting line and do a run. I get it. I understand. I can empathize with it. I can sympathize with it, the whole thing, because guess what? I'm going through the same thing. And I'll tell you what, if you can just shift your focus a little bit to the little things, you're going to find the big things are going to happen more frequently, more consistently. So I'm hoping this is a big help for everybody. All right. And I'm going to start with something I've brought up a number of times, whether it's on guided runs in the newsletter or here on this podcast. And that's just the little thing of planning ahead. Yeah, planning ahead. Looking at your schedule the day before, the morning of, and figuring out, when can I do this? Because when things get stressful, when things get chaotic, when things get hectic, we can suddenly feel like we're juggling more balls than we normally are. And guess what? We might be. We might be juggling more balls than we usually juggle. So if you're somebody who's, pretty, consistently got 4 or 5 in the air and you feel pretty good about maintaining your juggling act, well, when suddenly 3 or 4 more balls get thrown in there, it can get very stressful. And it can get to a point where you're like, I can't juggle 8 or 9 balls. I can juggle 4 or 5. So what you want to do, this is what, you tell yourself is, I have to juggle 4 or 5 because I can juggle 4 and 5. And if I try to juggle 9, I'm going to drop them all. So I've got to get rid of 3 or 4 of these. And what you normally do is you drop some of the things that you feel are beneficial maybe only to you. And that's a very human type of instinct to have, where this isn't about me. I have responsibilities to other people. I'm going to not do the things that I feel are only beneficial to me. So I'm not going to go for the run. And that's going to buy me 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and that way I can get to the store, or I can finish what I have to do at work, or that's going to buy me time to do a few more assignments or things around the house. And you get rid of the things that bring you joy because you feel like that's a selfish move. You get rid of the things that bring you peace because you feel like you have too much to do to worry about your own inner peace. So what I would highly recommend, and it's a little thing, but it's got a really, really, really big, awesome bonus that comes with it, is to plan ahead and find those areas the next day ahead of time where you can fit that thing for you. And it might be something other than a run, okay? This is about running. This is not about running. But for this podcast, I'm going to use the example of running. Find that place. And I had an episode a few weeks back, or maybe it was a few months back, How to Run More with Less Time, I believe is the name of it. And I said, when you do something like this, when you plan ahead, when you see that, you know what, tomorrow I've got a window of 25 minutes, it also helps because if you've been consistently running for 45 minutes and you kind of wing it the next day and you run for those 25 minutes, but it was kind of haphazard of how it came along and you kind of snuck it in, you can diminish your effort. You can negate the positives that come from running 25 minutes because you're thinking, you know what, I should have been going 45 and I only went 25, as opposed to planning ahead and realizing I only have 25 minutes. So when you do run the full 25 minutes, it's a different mentality. You realize you did 100% of what you could do, as opposed to misreading the situation and saying, I only did 45, 50, 55% of what I wanted to do, which may be the case, but it doesn't matter what you want. It's what can you do? You know, I may want to run for 24 straight hours, which I don't, by the way, but for the sake of this, example here, just roll with this. I can't. So when I run for an hour, I don't punish myself and say I could only run 1/24th of what I wanted to do. It doesn't matter what you want to do. What can you do? And if you have 25 minutes and you fill it up, you did everything you could do. That's worthy of celebration. That's worthy of your respect. So when you plan ahead, it allows you to find the time, or at least it gives a better opportunity for you to take advantage of the time you've got, which may not be the time you want to have, but it's the time you got. So plan ahead. And during hectic parts of your life, and really non-hectic too, it will always be a benefit to plan ahead. It's a little thing. Look at your schedule. But it's, like I said, it's got really, really big, great things that happen as a result of just planning ahead. You're also going to find that you have less stress in your life when you're planning out. That's all I want to say. All right, we're moving on. All right, next. This is two of my favorite things. Drinking and eating. Yeah, they're little things. Drinking and eating. They should be little things. They can be big things, though. They can turn into really big things. So when you're going through hectic periods, when you're going through stressful periods, when you're going through high volume periods of training, eating and drinking, they seem like they're little things because people treat them like they're little things, which is why they shuffle them off to the side and sometimes ignore them as things they need to do. They're really, really, really big. They are big deals. You know what I mean? It's like the Ron Burgundy was like, I'm kind of a big deal. Eating and drinking, they're big deals. You don't miss doing those things. And the cool thing here is they should be enjoyable. They should be fun. You should be eating delicious foods that ideally are also nutritious foods. But you should be eating things that bring you joy. You should be drinking, not because you're like, oh my God, I gotta hydrate. No, just because you don't want to be dehydrated. And there is enough options out there where you can constantly be drinking something that tastes good. And by the way, water tastes good. All right. It doesn't taste like anything, right? So how can it taste bad? And if you need to add a little lemon, add a little bit of lemon. The point is, you can stay hydrated and you can stay fueled without it becoming a big deal. They are little things. Now, you can use part of the first thing I brought up, which is plan ahead, which is going to help So you don't find yourself, which happens to me all the time. I'm going to just fully admit here, because if Coach Tammy, that's Coach Bennett the Greater, Coach Tammy of the Show Up Society, if she listens to this podcast, which I'm not sure if she does, by the way, but anyway, if she does, she's going to say, wait a minute, fool boy, you screw this up a lot. And she's right. I do. I don't plan as well as I should meals when I'm traveling or when I'm super busy. And as a result, I pay a penalty for it. I absolutely do. Because if you're fueled, if you're hydrated, you're going to have a better run. Period. End of story. So just wrap your head around that real quick. If you fuel yourself, if you are hydrated, you're going to have better runs than if you're not. I mean, this is like a Captain Obvious moment. Like, just stay fueled, which means have those meals over the course of the day. Have those snacks. Make sure you're staying hydrated because you're getting those fluids inside you. And guess what? You will have better runs. And if you keep having better runs consistently, those better runs lead to even better runs. And now suddenly you realize you are a better runner. Wow. Just by doing some little things like fueling and getting fluids. That's it. Little things. But when you don't do them, they become really big things. When you are underfueled, your runs aren't as good. Life isn't as good. You do not have the ability to maintain a performance level that you could have maintained if you had been fueled. So your performance diminishes across everything. Less focus, less energy. Just put those two things into pretty much any aspect of your life and you're diminishing performance dramatically. By being dehydrated, it diminishes performance. Just a little dehydration can diminish performance. So those things, little things, if you do them, have really big rewards. Those little things, if you don't do them, have big ramifications. All right? So drinking and eating. Another thing is just a series of questions. And oddly enough, they all start with W, which is wild. And I think this is another one of those little things that people don't think about consistently. And as a result, they don't do the runs that they should be doing. And if they are doing runs that they should be doing, they don't do them as well as they could be doing. All right? So what are those W words? When, what, why, where, with who, and whether as a bonus W. I'll say it again. When, what, why, where, with who, and whether as the bonus. We're going to rip through these kind of quickly. When? Well, that goes into the planning, right? But it's not just the planning. There are different parts of the day which call for different things from you. If you're running early in the morning, right? Well, some of that is going to have to do with planning the night before and things like that. But early in the morning could also mean that it's dark. So you're going to have to plan. Later at night could mean it's dark. Okay, you're going to have to plan accordingly for that. You're going to have to be prepared. You're going to have to think about some of these other W words. Like, well, what kind of a run am I trying to do? Well, if it's early in the morning, can you do the run you want to do? That what run? Well, it's supposed to be a speed run. All right, well, do you have the ability to do it? Here in Portland, we're going through some cold weather right now. I would have a very hard time running outside. I don't own a treadmill. Running outside very early in the morning and wanting to do, let's say, a speed run. Why? Because it's icy right now in the morning. It's very humid here, even if it's not raining the night before, but we're going through some rain and some sleet and some snow and all that stuff. But the point is, if I'm thinking about when, and it's early in the morning, and what, it's a speed run, I'm probably not going to be able to do it. It's just not going to happen. It would be too dangerous to try to do a speed run in these conditions, okay? So I have to figure out the when, and then I may have to adjust the what. Now, if we move on to the next one, why? This is another great question to be asking yourself. It's a little thing, but it's a big thing too. So when you ask yourself why are we doing this? What you're going to find is you're going to go to the purpose of the run, right? Why am I doing a speed run? Okay, well, you're doing a speed run to work on, let's say, race pace, because maybe you're training for the 1500 or the 3K, and you want to build speed, obviously, to become a more efficient runner by playing with some of these paces to challenge yourself in a certain way. Okay, well, knowing this is really important when you start the workout. Because when you do the workout and you say, well, part of this is to challenge me, part of this is to push me, part of this is to callous me at race pace, well, that's a different mentality than an easy run, right? So when you get out there and you're struggling a little bit, well, you should be, right? You should be struggling a little bit. That's not the case for an easy run. So if you were supposed to be doing an easy run, and you're out there struggling, and you go back to the why am I doing this? What is the purpose of doing this? Well, the purpose isn't to physically struggle out there on an easy run. So maybe you need to back off. When you ask yourself why, when you get down to the purpose of the run, why are we doing this? What is the purpose? It's going to give you a little insurance. And what I mean by that is it's giving you another layer of conversation between you and yourself as a coach. And what's going to happen is you're going to put in these little references about it's an easy run. Okay, what's the purpose of an easy run? Okay, so when you get out there, if suddenly you are not marrying the purpose of the run with the effort of the run, well, you got to make some adjustments. Coach has to come back in, remind you, and that will keep you from running the wrong run. If you're consistently running the right run for you, which means distance, duration, the volume, the intensity, the effort, all of those things, if you're consistently doing that the right way, you're going to get better. Yeah, you're going to get better. So that's why you ask the why. The next W is where. Where are you doing this? It's a good thing to ask yourself, because just like the when may demand adjustments, the where may demand adjustments as well. Where am I running this? Well, I'm running this on my treadmill. Okay, that's great. You're running it on your treadmill. All right, so you're going to have to make some adjustments mentally, because maybe if you're like me, running on a treadmill can be harder mentally, mindfully. So I'm going to go into this knowing this is going to feel harder mentally than a run outside would. Or maybe I'm running outside. All right, well, I know that I'm going to be running around Nike's campus. All right, well, that's good to know. What kind of a run am I doing? I'm doing an easy run. Or if I'm doing an easy run, I don't have to run around Michael Johnson's track the whole time. I can go to Hollister Trail. I can mix things up. It's going to get me thinking about where the best place to do this run would be if I have the luxury of running in a few different locations, or what adjustments do I need to make because I don't have that luxury and I have to focus on one place and taking advantage of it as best as I can. So it's a little thing, just thinking about where, but just thinking about where is going to get you thinking about where best and how best to do your run. So it's an important question. The next one, with who? This is also important. Maybe it's with nobody. Okay, how do you make adjustments for that so you can feel comfortable and safe on the run? What are some things you might do? Well, you may be reaching out to people to say, hey, I'm running by myself from here for this long. Just wanted you to know. I'll check in with you when I'm done running, which, by the way, you should do with someone you care about every single time you go for a run by yourself. Because guess what? You would want someone you care about to do the same. You would want them to tell you, hey, I'm going for a run by myself at Nature Park in Beaverton, and I just want you to know I'm probably going to go for 45 minutes, may go a little bit longer. I'll check in with you when I'm done. So then that way, if you haven't heard from them in 75 minutes, 90 minutes, you can check in with them, and maybe they can say, oh, you know what? I went a little bit longer, and then I had to use the bathroom, and that took a little bit of time, if you know what I mean. And then I was just sitting in the car actually going through Instagram. I forgot. I'm sorry. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, these are some things that you're going to want to think about. Maybe you're running with a group of individuals that are a little bit faster than you are. Okay, this has happened a lot in my career, and I've been able to think like, okay, I may have to adjust my run a little bit. I may want to start before them, so when they start, I'm into my run a little bit. I'm running a little bit faster than I do at the start of the run because I've now progressed a little bit, and I'm probably going to finish before they do because I'm not going to be running as far as them because I started earlier. So they may be running for an hour, I may be running for an hour, but I'm only going to start with them at the 20-minute mark for my run. So I'll run the first 40 minutes of their run, which will be the last 40 minutes of my run, so I can take advantage of running with this group as best as I can. These are the things that you want to think about. Maybe it's one-on-one with a friend that just started running, and this is a great time to think, okay, I'm running with Billy, and Billy's new to running, so I have to remember I'm going to help him as much as I can on this run. So this run is about me helping him, not so much about me running my run. I'm going to help him run his run. And maybe I can add on after, or I can run before, but ask, who are you running with? And is there something you can do as a teammate, or is there something you can ask them since they're your teammates? And remember, you don't have to share a jersey to be a teammate, right? I mean, if you're just sharing a starting line, there are already reasons that you should be looking at the people to the left and the right, in front of you and behind you as teammates, okay? All right, so think about with who you're running. It's a little thing, but it's a big thing. Weather. Obviously, weather. I mean, I have that as a bonus, but it's pretty obvious. Just look at the weather app or listen to, the news, turn on the weather channel, do whatever you need to do to find out what the weather is, because the weather doesn't respect you, but you need to respect the weather. And if you want to have a better run, you need to take into account how the weather is going to affect your run, how the weather is going to affect the runner. And if you can respect the weather, you're going to have a better chance at a better run in all types of weather, okay? And that also means that sometimes no run is the best run if weather conditions are dangerous. So when, what, why, where, with who, weather. These are little questions. This isn't like an hour of information. This is moments. But just asking these questions, thinking about the answer, coming up with the best possible answer for you and your run, it's going to lead to better runs. All right, another thing to think about, which comes up more and more the older you get. It comes up more and more the more you run. It comes up more and more the better you get, which is being stronger than the running that you're doing, which is one of the rules you should always have. I like to tell people that when they start running, or they start picking up the intensity or volume of the running, they have to be very careful. And the reason why they have to be very careful is that runners start to build up cardio fitness pretty quickly. And it's like euphoric, where you realize, it was only a few weeks ago where I was running 5 minutes a day, and now I'm running 25, 30 minutes a day, and I feel so good, and I want to keep pushing it, and I think I might go for an hour in like a week from now. And it's great. The progression's there. The cardiovascular fitness is increasing. I get it. It feels good. But if you're not doing the little things to become a stronger athlete, to become a stronger runner, then the runs that you're doing, what's going to happen is you're going to stay the athlete you were at the beginning, doing a volume and intensity that is weeks down the road. So the athlete version of you is still at the starting line. The runner version of you is now many miles down the road. That difference between those two athletes, eventually it becomes too great a distance, and that's how you get hurt. That's how you get sick. That's how you get injured. What you want to do is always be a stronger athlete than the runner you are. And what I mean by that is you want to be doing the little things so your body can handle, more than handle, the running you're asking it to handle. That makes sense, right? I mean, one of the things that I consistently see now and consistently saw when I was coaching high school was athletes, when they start increasing either volume or intensity, their hip flexors give out on them. And that can show up as a whole bunch of things. Sometimes it feels like it's a groin issue. Sometimes it feels like it's a hip issue. Sometimes there's not pain involved. Initially, especially, it's not pain. They just don't know why they're unable to run as efficiently as they were even just a few weeks ago. Or it just seems like they're not so much sluggish, but something seems off. And part of it is, well, your hip flexors are like, look, buddy, you've done nothing to strengthen me. I'm the same strength. I'm the same hip flexors from 2 months ago, and you're this now cardiovascular beast. Well, when we were doing 5 minutes and 15 minutes and 20 minutes, I could handle it, and we were doing it like 3 days a week. Now you're running 5 days a week, and you're running like 40 minutes a day. Dude, I can't do that. So basically, I quit like 2/3 into every run, and your hip flexor helps you lift up your leg. So now suddenly your leg is not coming up as much. Your stride is shortening. There's not as much power. And it shows up in your pace. It shows up in a whole bunch of different things. Eventually it shows up in pain because you start straining to lift your leg as your hip flexor getting deeper and deeper into these runs is doing less and less work because it's exhausted, it's pooped, it's fatigued, you can't do it anymore. So you want to be doing these little exercises to make sure that your hip flexors are always more than capable of doing what you're asking them to do. Look, you don't need to go and have a membership at a gym and spend an hour in the gym 4 days a week. It's a series of exercises. Most of them are balancing or body weight type exercises, so you don't even need any gear. And drills, and by drills, everyone suddenly panics and thinks like they have to be like at an NFL combine to do the drills. You don't even need the hurdles and the ladder stuff. They're just there to guide you. So it's just a series of small exercises, little things that you could be doing while you're watching TV, making dinner, waiting for the bus, waiting for an elevator, hanging out in front of your house. These are all little things you could be doing. So the big things you want to do, you can continue to do, which means run and do the runs. So stronger than the run. That's the goal. You want to be stronger than the run. And the way to do that is to keep doing these little exercises consistently. We're talking minutes every day. That's it. Just minutes. Not lots of minutes, just a few minutes, okay? Another thing is warming up and cooling down. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you want to warm up and cool down, and there's a couple of ways you can warm up and cool down, okay? I'll do like the speed run, warm up and cool down. You're going to want to spend some time going for a nice, easy jog, building up a sweat, getting your bodies loose, getting the blood flowing before you take on a very intense effort. It's not just the physical side, though. It's also the mental side, the mindful side. Having that warm up gives your body and mind the time to warm up and get ready to take on this effort. It puts you in the right state of mind. It puts you in the right state of fitness to do it, right? And doing the strides and all of those little things. The reason why you do these little things, which a warm-up's just a little thing, is so you can do the big thing, the workout, as best as you can. You want to get to the starting line as ready as you can be. Skipping something like a warm-up there is foolish. And it's the same thing as you ease into a speed run through the warm-up. You want to ease out of it with a cool down. And it doesn't have to be 20 minutes. It could just be a couple of laps on the track. It could just be a couple of minutes. But what you want to do is give your body the opportunity to cool down a little bit. It's no different than cooking something, taking it out of the oven, and allowing it to breathe for a minute before you dig in and chow face, right? So warming up, cooling down, little things. And when you have intense work that you need to do, just make sure you're doing those little things so you can do the big thing as best as you can. Now, for something like an easy run, if you want to go for I'm making it up, a 40-minute easy run, you could warm up for 10 minutes and stretch for 5 minutes and then go for a 25-minute run. So it ends up being 35 minutes of running, right? It's there, but if you're going to have a better 35-minute run than a 40-minute run without doing those things, well, then do those things. Do the shorter warm-up, the very, very easy run, get in the stretch, then do the easy run. If you can dynamically warm up by taking it easy at the start of the run and allowing your body to ease into the run by running, and as you do that, progress into the run, that's fine too for an easy run. Most of the guided runs, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm guiding you through the beginning stages of the run as more or less a glorified warm-up. It allows your body and your mind to ease into the run. So when we start progressing naturally to that recovery run pace, well, You're ready to take it on. You feel good physically and mindfully that now we can start picking things up, right? So, warming up, cooling down, they seem like little things, but they're not, all right? They're little things to do. They're small things, but like I said, they've got really, really big positive things that come out of doing them. All right, we only have a couple more. Another one is sleepy time, all right? I cannot stress this enough, especially during times of great stress. And great stress could be positive stressors, like you've got a big workload of running, high volume, high intensity, whatever. You've got races coming up or something like that, and that's bringing you stress in a fun way. Okay, hopefully it's not bringing negative stress into your life. But also, if you are going through stressful aspects, if you are going through something stressful in your life, sleep is really, really important. Okay, so important. And the most important aspect, I think, of sleep is the fact that it is when you recover your best. So if you want to stay as healthy as you can be, if you want your best chance of warding off sickness, then you cannot cheat sleep, all right? So there are idiots out there that say things like, oh, sleep is for the weak, and I'll sleep, when I'm dead and all that stuff. Well, you're not going to sleep when you're dead, so that's already stupid because you don't sleep when you're dead. That's just dumb. But the other thing is your performance, just like being dehydrated, just like being not fueled enough, will diminish, and it will diminish dramatically when you do not have enough sleep. You also will not recover from the work you are doing if you're not getting enough sleep. And I'll tell you what, most people that don't get enough sleep, they're just cranky, all right? So you're kind of miserable to be around, probably because you feel miserable, and maybe because you're getting miserable results because you think that grinding through and not sleeping is the way to success. Not true. It's just not true. It's dumb. Make sure you're getting your sleep. It seems like a little thing. I can assure you it absolutely is not. It is a big, 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 big thing. But it's something that should be pretty enjoyable, And I've written about this and how you can sleep your best, even if you're not sleeping the amount of hours you would like to because of life. You can at least make that sleep better. So yes, sleep. It ain't a little thing, but for the sake of this podcast, it's a small thing. Okay, gear. Now, like I said, it's cold here. It's been snowing and kind of sleeting today. I went for a run, and I was ready. I had my snow hat on. I had gloves. I had a jacket that's water resistant that I've had now for 3 years. It's so good. I had some pants I was wearing. I was ready. I was comfortable on the run. It was cold. It was wet. I was comfortable. Let's just say that again. It was cold. It was wet. I was comfortable. I have a better run when I'm comfortable. I'm not talking about effort here isn't a tempo run, you're supposed to be uncomfortable. Isn't that the point? To get comfortable with being uncomfortable? Yeah, but even on a tempo run, your gear is to make you as comfortable as you possibly can be so you can focus on the harder aspects of the run. That's why gear is so important. So I want you to be thinking about whether or not you have what you need to have the best run you can have. And sometimes it's as simple as just getting a pair of mittens. That's right. I said mittens. I prefer that word over gloves because mittens is just an adorable word. Makes me think of little kitty cats. But the point is, do you have mittens? Do you have sunglasses on a sunny day? I've talked about this before. Do you know how awesome it is to not squint? Yeah, that's what sunglasses do. They help you to not squint. You're going out for a 20-minute run, a 2-hour run. Do you want to squint the entire time? No. Get a pair of sunglasses. What's wrong with you? Why make something harder than it needs to be? That is a mindset that makes no sense. That's not how you get better at running. Running is hard enough, and you can challenge yourself with harder and harder runs and different workouts and volume. You then don't make it harder by saying, well, I'm going to squint the whole time. Or I'm not going to wear gloves so I can lose body heat through my extremities and be cold and not be able to give a better effort. What are you talking about? That makes no sense. I'm not going to wear a night lamp because I don't want to be able to see, because if I can see, then I'll have a better run. I don't understand. I'll be safer. What are you talking about? Go through your gear and see what you need. And it doesn't have to all be immediate, but start adding to your inventory of needs, okay? Because if you want to run better, you have to satisfy the needs on the list first, all right? So go through your gear. It's a small thing, but it's a big, big help. Okay, last thing, your attitude, all right? Especially during hard times. Your attitude. Is your attitude raditude or baditude? I'm probably going to delete that out because that is so cheesy. But you know what? Now that I'm saying it, no, I'm keeping it in. Do you have a raditude attitude or a baditude attitude? That's what I'm saying. Ask yourself this. Be honest with yourself about this. I'm not saying everything needs to be super happy. Like, hey, guess what? Life is really stressful. Put a smile on your face. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is being honest is a really good start. Just admitting you're going through a very stressful time, a very hectic time, a very busy time. That's going to help. I'll tell you why. Because if you can admit something like that, it's going to put you in a better position to do the run you should do, okay? And if you can do the run you should do consistently, you're going to run better. If you try to ignore the fact that you're stressed out, upset, sad, confused, frustrated, pissed off, and you just pretend like this doesn't have an effect on you as an athlete, like you can, sever. I'm watching Severance right now with Tammy. I mean, what an unbelievable show. If you're not watching Severance right now, come on. Watch season 1. We're like 4 or 5 episodes into season 2. It's just so good. But they basically can split their work lives and their home life. So they go through this like severance procedure when they show up at work. The home version of them doesn't exist. They do something in their brain where it just doesn't exist. They don't know them. So when they're at work, they're called innies. When they're at home, they're called outies. And the outie has no idea what happens at work. Absolutely nothing. No idea, because it's split, which obviously that's not reality. So you can't sever the stressed life you've got going on when you go for a run. A run can help with you dealing with stress. A run can be a release and a relief from certain aspects of your life, but those aspects of your life don't go away. They don't disappear. Ignoring them doesn't change anything. What you want to do is bring the reality of your life into how you're going to do the run, what you can expect from the run that you're going to do, the distance, duration, adjustments you need to make. That's what you want to do. And you will have a better attitude about your run and about your running if you're just honest, okay? So don't sever, because it doesn't work, the identities between who you are before the starting line and who you are when you cross the starting line on your way to the finish line. You're the same person. Respect both those people by being honest about what's going on in both those versions of you, their lives. So, attitude's the last one. And, the danger here whenever you are talking about the little things, especially when a coach is talking about the little things to athletes, the danger is that the little things are assumed to be easy. And I'm not saying the little things are easy. I'm saying in our mind we compartmentalize what we're doing. And we think sometimes like the running, the minutes, the meters, the miles. That's the big stuff, right? The running, the racing, that's the big stuff. Everything else is the little stuff. And fine, if that's what we're going to do, I'm okay with doing that. But it doesn't mean that the little things are easy. It just means that we're deciding the big thing, the main goal, the big purpose, okay, is the run. And everything surrounding the run, because the run is capitalized, everything else is lowercase. But remember, it doesn't mean that the little things are easy. And the reason why I keep repeating this is because a lot of times we won't do the little things because we think they're easy to do. And if they're easy to do, it means they're not consequential. We think that if something's easy, it just doesn't matter. And that's not true. So I just wanted to say that just because it's considered a little thing doesn't mean it's easy. But I'm also not saying they're all really hard. It's just being aware. Because sometimes the little things are the hardest things to do. Sometimes the big things are the easiest things to do. Somehow getting a good sleep or putting together a sleep routine can seem like the hardest thing to do in the world, and yet going for a 2-hour run is easy peasy lemon squeezy. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be plateaus. Just be aware. That's all. Be aware. And be open to the fact that, guess what? Sometimes the little things are going to feel like the biggest. And sometimes the big things are going to seem like the smallest. All right? And the other thing just to remember, which I think is important at all times, is that sometimes the hardest thing to do makes everything else you do easier. And sometimes the easiest thing to do makes everything else you do harder. So be aware of that as well. Just something to think about. That was episode 89. And I know I was talking about the great albums that came out in 1989, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that are like, is he really going to talk about great albums from 1989 and not mention 1989 by Taylor Swift? Oh, don't you worry. Don't you worry. I will. My favorite Taylor Swift song is on 1989, and I wonder if you can guess what it is. So if you have an idea of what it is, well, reach out and let me know. Maybe shoot me something on Threads or on Instagram, or, maybe I'll put up a poll and I'll see what people think my favorite song from 1989 is. Anyway, I wasn't going to end the episode without talking about 1989 and T Swift. Don't you worry. All right. Thank you to everyone for listening to episode 89, All the Small Things. I hope this helps. I hope if you're going through a tough, rough, difficult patch, or if you eventually do go through a tough, rough, or difficult patch, because guess what? We all go through them. We all do. Whether it has to do with our running, whether it has to do with our life outside of running, we go through it. I hope this helps. And I hope, knowing that all these small things that you can do, it won't always be easy, okay? But if you can do them, if you can do some of them, they're going to make the big things you want to do easier to do, all right? And whether it's big, whether it's small, you should celebrate the fact that you did it, okay? Do that. Be a good teammate to yourself. Be a great coach to yourself. Be a great friend to yourself. You're going to run better. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast. If you're following and subscribing, thank you. If you're not following and subscribing, get in the game. Follow and subscribe to the podcast. Please leave a rating and a review. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll meet you on the next starting line. Thank you so much for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast today. And if you haven't already subscribed or set yourself as a follower to the podcast, I really hope you would. And make sure you check out the show notes, because in those show notes, you're going to find a link to Coach Bennett's newsletter and all the social media sites I'm on, like Instagram and Threads and Cameo and Blue Sky and Nope, not on that one anymore. So all the ones I am on, you're going to find it in the show notes, so check that out as well. And as always, thank you again for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast. Until next time, you keep taking care of yourself and each other.